So this output which I got, which it is from the default namespace. Okay, and we can have multiple namespace, and there are some other namespaces also available on the system, and we can check it using kubectl get namespace ns, or we can also use an namespace. Both will work. Okay, so if you see, default was the one where we were working till now, and there are few more like cube node release, cube public, and cube system. Okay, so if you want to get the details of the other namespace, we can use kubectl-n. This is one of the method. Give the name of the namespace and get all the details of it. Okay, so this is maintained by Kubernetes. Kubernetes maintains on its own. Okay, and it should not be visible to others. That's why there is a segregation. So in default namespace we cannot see anything in the cube system, and cube system we cannot see from other namespaces. So this segregation is also important. So what happens in a production environment, there will be three namespaces: dev, staging, and production. So the developers will have access. Okay, all the developers will have access to dev namespace. They may not, only limited people will have access to staging, and very limited people will have the access to production. And there will also be a segregation so that they do not conflict with each other. Okay, so it is a logical separation. So this logical separation is nothing but a Kubernetes namespace. And how we check the namespace is available using kubectl get namespace. Okay, and if you want to check the details of anything in a particular namespace, we'll use kubectl-n, the name of the particular namespace, and get all. And if you do not use
So
-n and any namespace, it will be default. By default, one output of the default namespace it will give. Yes,
yeah, you are referring the namespace that just you go. Yeah, just go to top and just go up.
here you are saying.
No, that
Okay,
X. So
okay.
the cube public cube system, this a they are defined their namespaces.
Yeah, these are the default ones. All the fours are created when we install microcreators for the first time.
Oh, this one cannot be changed, right?
No, this cannot be changed, but we'll be creating our own namespaces now.
Namespace. Okay, okay.
Yes. Okay, so next what we are doing the same thing. So first check kubectl get all. This output I'm getting, remember, from default namespace. And one of the command to check, okay, on in which namespace we are is, we'll see that later. Let's first create a namespace. Okay, I'm creating a namespace called dev. Kubectl create dev. This is one of the namespace which I've created, and the other one I'm creating is a prod. Kubectl get namespace, and now we can see the new one which I have created, dev and prod. Okay, and if you see kubectl get all -n dev, all the details of the dev is just now we created, it is empty, it doesn't have anything, and the other one also is empty. Okay, so we have all the data in the default namespace. So for default namespace we do not have to give -n. I'll tell you reason why, and we can also access it using -n default. The same output will get. Okay, why? Because by default, if you see kubectl config get context, it is the command to get the details of the current namespace. But now it is not showing default, it should show here default, but microcreators is not showing it. So what we will do is, when we set it, it will show. So if we set it, if you want that we do not want to add -n every time. Okay, so what we will do is set the default namespace as default, and if I do now kubectl get context, my namespace is default. So whatever I do, it will be done in the default namespace. Now let's set it to dev. Okay, now if I do kubectl get all, it will give details of only development namespace. Why? Because we have set our default namespace as dev. Okay, now as I have entered into the dev namespace, let's create something inside it. Now I am in a dev namespace. I'll create. So let's set first to, as per the exercise, set it to prod. Okay, my namespace is now default one is prod. Okay, and if you go by the exercise, I'm creating a deployment, okay, with one replica inside it. Okay, so where it will show, if we do now kubectl get all, so we are getting the details from the prod namespace. And our small mistake I have done. So what I'll do is kubectl get all. The naming is wrong. Kubectl delete the deployment. So you will also get confused, but let's get the context again. Get context kubectl. I'm in a prod. Okay, let's set it to default first. Okay, now kubectl get all. The default namespace has the nginx deployment. Okay, now we'll create one more deployment here. Okay, and that's why I've given it here a name, default one, so that it becomes easy to segregate. So if now I am checking the details in default namespace, now let's set it to prod. Okay, and I'll create one more deployment here in prod. So first check what is in the prod. It is empty. I'll make it as prod. Now again check in which namespace I am. I am in a prod namespace. Okay, here. Now do kubectl get all. Just now we created a prod deployment. Similarly, set it as a dev. The current context as dev. Okay. Then what we have in a dev, it is also empty. Now let's create one more deployment in dev namespace. Dev kubectl get all. Okay, so what we have done is we created three namespaces: kubectl get all, get namespace. We created three namespaces. No, actually default one was already there. Two new namespaces, dev and prod, and we went inside it in each namespace by setting it as a default one, and then we created some mm, deployment inside it. So we can see either by going inside it using set one or kubectl-n dev get all. So this will list everything inside dev. If you we don't need to switch it again and again. We can also do using -n, get the details of prod, and we can also get the details of default one. Okay, and before ending this exercise, let's set the context to default. It should always be default. Okay, at least for our exercises. Then if you see, now if I do kubectl get all, it will give the details of the default namespace. Now what I was doing, I was going inside the particular namespace by setting the context, and then I was creating the new pods. But there is one more method, that is just add -n to it. The same command, create deployment either at the end or after kubectl -n dev. In -dev, I'm creating deployment number 2. Okay. In prod, I'll create prod 2. Prod is already there. I'm creating prod 2. Okay. And in default, there is already a default deployment. I'll add default 2. FAULT2. Okay. And now again check kubectl -n dev get all. We have 2 deployments and 2 pods. And if I go to prod, I'll have here also I have 2. And if I don't add any name to it, the default context is set as default 1. So it will give here also it will show 2. Or if you want to add, you can also add it -n default. And one more command we can see is give all the details of all the namespaces, all namespaces. So it will give details of all the namespaces. So the default namespace, deployment, okay, 3 deployments were there in default. In dev we have 2 deployments. The cube system is also having some deployments which we saw earlier, and the prod is also shown here. So this is also one of the command. If you want to get all the pods for all the namespaces, then it will show only the pods. Okay, so if you see only the pods, if you want to see only the services, then we can use svc or service. It will give only, so as of now only 2 services are created. One is in default namespace, and other one is in cube system namespace. Similarly, if you want to see only the deployments, then we can use this command. And if you want to see only the endpoints is nothing but the pods IP addresses, endpoints, we can also see it. Or if you want to see only for dev, then we can see it for dev. So there are nothing inside in the dev. So this was all about the namespaces.